glad to see not one, but about 6 individuals come up here before me that had a beard. The worst time with this beard on the Senate campaign. And people tell me I'm going to lose just because of that. So we'll see how it works, but it is interesting to see that, you know, there are people that do look like me here. You know, I didn't really follow Charlie that much. I think he was a great man. I don't want to stand here and shout a bunch of stuff about him that doesn't make his less important. I just didn't know him that well, but what I can say is I do believe he was persecuted for his Christian faith. And obviously we cannot have that. We do need to be careful about the First Amendment right of what people are saying online and the slippery slope we're going to walk into with that. Obviously calling for violence is never the right thing. But we have to be careful what we're telling people that they cannot say. And that goes so far as to even hear an individual say that they just flat out didn't like the guy. Or that maybe they don't care about his death. And I'm sorry to say that, but if we do it on our side, the Democrats will eventually win, and they're going to persecute us. So I just want you to think about that before we go down that road, because people do have the right to express themselves. Obviously less violence and less threats of violence, or even acting upon them. But let's just take a moment, obviously, and remember Charlie, because he was a good young man, not much younger than me, that really did change the minds of young people. As a matter of fact, my son's only 11. He'll be 11 in November. And having a kid who does not understand what any of this means, and is at football practice right now, wondering why his dad's not there, has watched videos of this man. And it's interesting that an 11-year-old boy, without persuading, knew he was a good man. I never talked to him about that man, but he made up his own mind. And I think, honestly, hopefully that's because we're raising him right. So, God bless Charlie. God bless his family. And also, just a quick request that whatever's going online to fundraise for him, make sure you do it to his family and not get scammed out of whatever's on the internet. Pay attention to that as well. See a lot of people making stuff, taking money, nobody knows where it's going to go. Just watch your money, that's all I can say. I read this story. Obviously we know the individual who's not running for this seat's been there for nearly 40 years. I took a preemptive chance at signing a term limits pledge, and we all know how hard that's going to be. But I want to tell you a story I've told to some people in Graves County about a young boy that grew up over those 40 years. And we have to read it. If you let me rant on here, we'll never get home. The year is 1986. It's 5 days before Christmas. A little boy is born in Portland, Indiana. The first 2 months of his life are a mystery. At 2.5 months old, he's left with his mother's boyfriend, who vanishes. But God intervenes. He places the boy in Meade County, Kentucky, in the loving home of 2 farmers in Sonoma. They give him love, structure, guidance, and a place to call home. Then, at 3 years old, his biological mother returns. She demands the boy back, and the state allows him. What follows is nearly a decade of hell for the young boy. At 6, he's punished by way of electrocution by the mother's boyfriend. At 8, he's suffocated and submerged in freezing and scalding hot water. By age 12, after years of abuse, the boy is acting out of desperation. The state now threatens to send him to a boys' home. The same state that once gave up on him is already ready to discard him. But one night, from a payphone in New Albany, Indiana, he calls his old foster mother begging, "Please come get me." And once again, God carves a legal path to return him to his family in Sonoma. He's adopted by his former foster parents, and finally he's safe. For 6 years, he works the family farm, raising tobacco and hay, and he's learning what real work is about. At 18, he joins the U.S. Air Force in the wake of the September 11 attacks on his nation. He signs a contract with his government. a pledge to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But his government breaks their promise. They unjustly withhold his pay, many times due to contract errors on their behalf. At 19, he's forced to file congressional letters again, just to fight for what's rightfully his. At 21, he separates from the military. He keeps serving as a civilian contractor all over Kentucky, Iraq, and Afghanistan. He rises, he leads teams of men and women of over 100 in peace and in wartime. He earns respect and name recognition within his industry as one of the best. And eventually that boy becomes the founder and president of his own helicopter maintenance company. A company, in fact, that has global customers. He's built it from the ground up by hard work, sacrifice, determination, and grit. Then his government unleashes COVID on him and his people. His job requires constant air travel, but due to childhood trauma, he cannot wear a mask. He gets a lawful medical exemption. He tries to follow his government's unconstitutional mandates, and once again, his government betrays him. The TSA, the CDC, and 5 major airlines, all conspiring to deprive him of his constitutional rights, all demanding illegal compliance and eventually placing him on a terrorist watch list. So he fights, he sues them all, without legal counsel, and he's currently winning those legal battles. I'm proud to say that that boy now stands before you as a man, running as the next U.S. Senator of Kentucky. We can no longer be silent. We must fight to remove rogue judges who legislate to invent and defy the Constitution. We must defend parental rights and ensure a school choice for every Kentucky family. We must hold big corporations accountable for their illegal COVID mandates, which violated their civil liberties. We must elevate our small businesses so that they don't just survive, but that they prosper. And we must reform the healthcare racket that we currently see today to ensure Kentuckians are not just prosperous, but healthy. Because we should not be getting ripped off by countries who require our businesses to survive, I absolutely support contrary. I am the first, again as I said, and the only U.S. Senate candidate in this race to sign the term limits pledge. It is imperative that we keep fresh idea in what was designed to be a very limited government. In reality, it has become a spying campaign and tool for weaponization against the American people, as you can see standing right before you. I support locking down our borders and keeping them closed until we can get an inventory of the mass number of illegals that entered our country under Joe Biden. And as Daniel said, why do you think New York is voting that guy in that type of mentality? Look at the people who have come there. And of course, how they got there. We must also hunt down and hold those accountable, individuals which are responsible for targeting our most vulnerable in this nation. If we do not stand in strong defense of our children's future and protection from these deranged individuals, we are not executing God's will, and He will see to it that we are struck down as a nation. Folks, as a whole, this is indeed the government your forefathers have warned you about, and shed much blood and sacrifice to protect us from it. My life is proof of that. And just as I've fought for my individual rights for another 38 years, I will fight for yours with everything I've got. Today I ask you to join me. Please stand with me, and let's restore accountability, liberty, and prosperity in this country. Thank you, and God bless you. God bless you.